Hi, welcome to another edition of End Credits, and today we're going to be looking at Raiders of the Lost Ark. Now, before we begin our review, we're going to be doing a few facts and figures, as always. Now, the movie was released on the 12th of June 1981 and had a budget of $18 million, when it grossed a massive $389,925,971. Now for the review. Well, you couldn't get anything more iconic of the 80s than Indiana Jones. And it was literally everything rolled into one. You wanted adventure, romp, this was it. On paper, it did sound kind of a bit iffy. Sort of like, an archaeologist going into tombs and finding things and not knowing where everything was, and mystery, adventure, and all that. It does kind of sound a bit iffy when you put it on paper like that. But boy, did we get a movie and a half, if anything, led by Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones. We also have Karen Allen playing Marion. We also saw Alfred Molina in his first ever movie role. He's the assistant at the beginning of the movie that's helping Indy try to get to that iconic gold statue, although he does have a rather nasty end, let's be honest. And we also have Paul Freeman as Belloc. Now, he really has he's one of the better villains in my opinion. Normally when you have a villain, they're all, oh yes, and I will do this. Belloc doesn't do that. Belloc is more kind of, more like, he's more like the school kid that sort of, ha 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 ha, I beat you, and I'm better than you. He's that kind of kid, the one you really want to punch, but he's got a bigger gang behind him. But this really was fantastic. This was a great movie through and through. Pat Roach, who was well known for his wrestling, turns up, although he beats Indy up, he ends up getting shot by a plane propeller. You also have John Rhys Davies playing Salah, and Salah was one of the more sympathetic characters. He was definitely one of the ones you want this guy behind you. And I always remember the poisoned date scene where he simply just grabs and he looks and you see this poor monkey who had been the sidekick of this henchman, who's now sadly died because he ate one of the poison dates that was intended for Indy. The movie itself was fantastic. It harked back to the old style movies where you would see, whenever they were traveling, you saw the animated path of where they were going, and I loved that. It was almost like it was an old style Universal type movie, and I think that was the intention. It was comic book but also very retro in that regard, and it made it cool. It was a fantastic movie. The one memory that I always had of this film was the ending. I'm not one for gore. Not really one for gore. Anyone who knows me, if there's blood splattered anywhere, if there's gore, if somebody's guts are ripped up, I am sitting there giving, ooh, 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 ooh. Guilty, yeah. I'm one of those people. So for a long time, I could not look at the end scene of the movie. Well, when you see somebody's face melting and all the blood, that was. Pass the bucket, please. Now, it's still kind of, but it's still, even though the effect itself has probably dated and how they do it, you still have the image that this was not a nice way to die. This movie also had a rather the iconic Indy versus the sword wielder, which was filmed when Harrison Ford had a stinking hangover, wasn't feeling well, he was ill from whatever, and luckily this scene was improvised, and thank God the guy knew what to do. Brilliant movie, all action adventure. It's definitely what I would call the popcorn movie. You literally go in, sit down. It's a romp from beginning to end, and it is fantastic. I only had one question about the film. There was one bit that always bugged me, and if anybody knows the answer to this, please comment below. There's a scene where Indy escapes the cargo vessel and climbs on top of the German U-boat, which then goes to its base. How did Indy do that? Did he climb into the submarine? Because there's not a lot of hiding places in there. Did he stay on top of the submarine? Like a boat. Which also has the thing, why didn't the submarine dive, if that was the case? And how did somebody at the base not notice that there's somebody on top of the submarine? Okay, I'm probably nitpicking where I shouldn't be nitpicking. It's still a full-on action romp. It is fantastic, and it has lasted well, and it's a movie I heartily enjoy. If anybody said they want me to put it on, get it on, and I will happily sit for as long as that film is on. Well, that's all we've got time for this edition of End Credits. Join me again where I'll be reviewing the second Indiana Jones movie, The Temple of Doom. Until then, I'll see you again. Bye-bye.